Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, I've heard you tell stories about people gaining access to people's home during this selling process. I know there are some laws about squatters. What can you tell us about unauthorized home occupants or squatters?
Well, it's interesting when you actually I did some research on this, Richard, and there's like a definition and there's a lot of legal stuff about what they call squatters' rights and how eventually they can own the home if they're there for 18 years, which I don't think any homeowner would let that go on that long. But I have had personal experiences with unauthorized occupants in the house. And the problem is it criminal trespassing or are they squatters? You don't know, right? And typically the way the police force and the county handles it is it's a civil problem. The more people that I've talked to that have had what they call squatters inside their house, these are people that are not the tenants. They don't have any authorization to be in this home, but they're in there. You just can't show up with your two big buddies and throw them out. You can't do it. There's a legal process. And even if you do call the sheriff's going to tell you, you have to go get a court order in order to get them out. Now, in 2018, they changed the laws for certain cases so they could get them out sooner than the standard eviction process. Standard eviction process, and just so I put a caveat on this, I am not a lawyer. I did go to college, but I'm a Navy veteran. I flew airplanes for one glorious year. I worked as an air traffic controller. I've got that kind of background, and I've been a real estate professional since 1996, but I am not a lawyer, okay? What I do know from having rental properties and having customers and clients that had experiences of unauthorized occupants in the home, there's a legal process that you have to go through. And what it is you have to post a notice, okay, that they need to get out, and you can go down to the county courthouse and get your hands on that for free, or you could hire a lawyer to process, quote, an eviction. And then you have to go to court and get a judgment for possession. Now, with a tenant, it's one thing if they're not paying. With an unauthorized occupant, they changed the law in 2018 that theoretically the process goes a little bit sooner. So you actually have to serve the person or persons that's unauthorized in the home. And then there's a court date. So they're given an opportunity to go to court and object as to whether or not they could be squatting in your home. So forgive me for using that term, but I've seen it happen too often. So let me tell you a story. Last year, I had a listing in which the owner had passed away. So I had met the owner before he passed away, and I kept him in my database. He got an annual calendar from me, and he had the calendar up on his refrigerator. And after he passed away, his family from out of state, from Arkansas, came to the house to help him with his estate. And there's a whole process for that. If you die without a will, then the family has to get assigned to be the executor of the estate. So legally, that takes a few weeks just to get that done. Okay. Once that was done, then we cleaned up the house, we took pictures, we listed it, it went on the market. And the family from Arkansas turned the utilities on in this home. Now we're going into the fall months, right? And so utilities are on, and an agent shows up to show the home thinking she is going to be at a vacant house. And these guys answer the door and they say, "Oh, the owner let us stay here for a while." And so she called the office, said, "Hey, what is going on? I thought this home was vacant." And we're like, "It should be vacant." And so we called the police. Nobody came. Why do you think nobody came, Richard?
Well, because apparently there's no jurisdiction, but the real reason I think is that they're so busy with major crimes that they hardly have enough forces to deal with things like this.
It's a civil matter, right?
Yes.
So there's a big manufactured home in an area where there aren't any other manufactured homes. It was on a foundation. I'm going to give you a reason why I'm telling you that. Beneath the foundation was a big, deep crawl space. Okay. And so when I went over there, I had just happened to be in the neighborhood. I said, I'm going over there. My husband's like, don't go over there. You're not the police. I'm like, no, this really makes me mad, you know? So I get to the house. Whoever was in the home had kind of scattered like a bunch of rats. But one guy came back up to me and he's like, oh, ma'am, the most valuable thing in my life is in that house. It's a leather jacket and I have to have it. I promise I won't come back, if you just put it outside and I'll come get it. And I said, all right, but you better come get it and you better not come back because the cops are coming. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So I went and got his coat. I put it outside. Then I looked in the house. They were so comfortable. They were taking showers. In the master bedroom, I found needles.
Oh
In,
God.
in the cabinets, I found a big jug of some kind of red looking chemical. They had food in the refrigerator. So I'm thinking, what do you think I'm thinking at this point, Richard?
Probably meth or doing something to create illegal drugs.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, this isn't good. So I thought, okay, they're out. Let's clean it up again. We put it back on the market. And 2 weeks later, they break in the house again. Right. And I'm like, oh God, okay. So my husband's like, nope, you're not going. I'm sorry. This is crazy. And I finally I agreed with him. I am not the police. And I don't have the resources to police this situation or put protection around it, right? And so about trying to get a hold of the family, what I didn't know was what had happened during this week is that the guy that was the executor passed away. And so now the utilities are in his name. He's in another state. And I get a phone call from Colorado Springs Utilities going, oh my God, the water usage is off the scale at this house because my sign is still in the yard. So they're
Right.
calling me, of course, right? So I call Colorado Springs Utilities and they told me the scope of how much water was being used. Let me just make a visual picture for you.
All right.
Rectangle home, probably about 2,000, 1,800 square feet, sitting on a 6-foot crawl space foundation. What they had done was cut the copper plumbing out of the bottom of the house. And that whole crawl space filled up with water, so much so it was coming out the sides above the basement foundation. And so I'm
And
like,
they did this, and apparently they did this to steal the copper, to sell it, and didn't care that you're going to end up with that much water. Because I thought maybe they just turned on all the faucets to be jerks about it, but they were stealing copper to sell it.
no, they weren't too bright because then they don't have functioning plumbing anymore, right?
Oh,
So,
even worse.
right. So Colorado Springs Utilities goes over there and these guys are still there, right? So I talked to him. He goes, well, I did shut off the water, but I didn't lock it because those are the rules. If there's an occupant in the house, you can't lock them out of water. So he could just go right back over there and turn it on. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So I did get a hold of one of the family members. One of the family members, I told them to let the widow know to please, please cut the utilities off at that house. Then they won't have a warm place to sleep because I couldn't do it. My name was not on the account, and it didn't matter how much I flopped on the floor and asked CSU to take care of it. They're not allowed to do that. It's whoever's on the account has the power to shut it off. And then I told him, I said, look, I visually observed drug paraphernalia in the home. We don't know if they're doing meth. Now that I know that they've filled the crawl space up with water, God knows what other damage took place. What little equity that might have been in that house probably is gone. If I were you, I would let this whole thing go. I'm sorry, but it's just not going to work. And ultimately, the bank foreclosed on that home. But that is like the worst nightmare if you're a homeowner, especially if you're selling a property that's vacant. So you don't want anybody to get access. And the best way to handle this is basically to make sure that you've got a security system in the home. So I have one of my colleagues actually is She does a lot of flipping. She became a real estate agent, so I didn't get to list her homes anymore, but she's probably the most amazing designer. Like, she could take a wall out and make the house look amazing. But the problem is, when she put them on the market, if she put the appliances in, there were several cases of the appliances getting stolen because the house was vacant. So she started buying those Simply Safe systems and putting those up in the house. So you can do that if you have a vacant home, and that might be enough to scare them away. Let me tell you another story. I had another client. By the way, my name is Barb Schlinker with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb Has the Buyers team. Go to barbhasthebuyers.com or call us at 719-301-3900. You ready for one more story, Richard?
I think they're pretty creepy, to be honest with you, but give me one more.
So one more. Recently, I had a home seller that basically had sold the home, had negotiated for possession after, and planned to do an estate sale after he left the state. The problem is, he handed the keys over to the estate sale company. Now, we contractually have, so part of our system is we offer to clean the home before the buyer takes possession. So here we are, possession day. We show up, and lo and behold, we find out that the workers for the estate sale had been sleeping in the home, not for one night. There was pizza and wings that were all dried up in the refrigerator, along with a whole bunch of beer in the trash cans full of beer. So they had been there for a while. Here's the problem with that. What if they are doing meth, right? And I handed the keys to the buyer. Buyers weren't upset about this. I was beside myself about it. I said, you need to change those locks, at least, because they were living in this more than $1 million home, right, for weeks and weeks. I wouldn't do that. I don't recommend that. I'm not real fond of the whole estate sale process unless you're there and you control it. So that's my story. Be super, super careful. And that's part of what we do. So if you have to remove squatters, it is a legal process. Call a lawyer, find out what to do, because it's not like you can just show up there with guns ablaze and kick them out. You can get in a lot of trouble for doing that. And if you want to hire somebody that knows how to protect your assets, that's what we do. We help home sellers all the time. And we don't get just the 3 P's right. We get the 4 P's right: protection, preparation, pricing, and promotion. So if you want to contact us, go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
This is one of the many reasons that I recommend you, a trusted Navy veteran. When people are thinking of buying or selling their home, you've seen it all. I'm Richard Randall, and you're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can always reach her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, favorite time of the show, lightning round, hot new listings up and down the Front Range.
Here we go. Escalante Court, priced at $395 in Pueblo West. Beautiful home on Rock Creek, priced at $595. Amazing home in Woodland Park on Fullview at $389. That one already sold. Native Circle at $535. Wonderful place. We're actually featuring this one open today, 11 to 12. 4666, wonderful place. It is a wonderful home. We have a beautiful Victorian on Rocky Heights, and there's plenty more. So to find out all about our homes and our coming soon homes, which we have 2 coming up in Briargate and 2 coming up in the Powers Corridor, go to barbhasthebuyers.com to get insider access to off-market properties. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker, the founder and the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of the program. And if you're thinking of making a move, just call her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. And remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or you can just listen to the podcast if you only caught a part of it here on all of the popular podcast platforms, Apple, iHeart, Spotify, many others. Thank you for listening. And to reach out to Barb, call her at 719-301-3900. Barb, great time talking with you. We'll talk to you soon.